Okay, it's 6 o'clock on March 25th, 2025. I will call to order the Board of Trustees for the Village of Sister Bay. Roll call.
Berto. Here. Housen. Here. Hart.
Here.
Shampoo. Here. Bell.
Here.
Roscoe, we're waiting on, and Warner is excused.
Okay. The agenda, item 3. So there was correspondence from council since the agenda was published on Friday. I would make a motion that we approve the agenda, removing item 10.
I would, if you have had a conversation with council, I would still like to have the closed session to know what that is instead of waiting for the future.
So, I mean, the discussion, I don't want to get into that.
I know, that's why I want to keep it on the agenda and still have that executive session.
I believe you've got all the same information that discussion was contained. I mean, that's really what that was.
That just the person.
Making a motion to approve the agenda with item 10. Item, motion by Bell, second by Allison. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, motion doesn't carry that. Would like to make a motion, Denise?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. Motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Shampoo. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. That is approved. Approval of the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025.
Did we have included Lily in that?
She wasn't here. I mean, she came in after the meeting started, so.
I don't, yeah, I know, but should she not have been included in that vote? And if she were to have been included, then what would have happened? Tied, right?
It would have tied. Well, you don't know how, that's presumably how well it's going.
Well, tied or not tied, but let's say it was tied, what would have been?
So. No action. was
I don't know.
taken. We wouldn't have had an agenda approved,
And then when no agenda is approved, what happened?
then we don't have a meeting. Correct, Julie?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, so if it's tie vote, my understanding is the result is the opposite of what that motion was. So if the motion was to strike it and it was tied, and the result would have been it stays on the agenda. It's my understanding. It's a negative of what the motion is.
Okay,
It's my understanding.
so yeah, we move forward with the agenda as it has been approved.
It's fine, I just wondered for
On the 3-2 vote.
Robert's rules, since all the trustees are here. Okay.
Meeting minutes from February 18th.
I would like to make a small correction on page 4. On line 7. The Federal Reserve rate cuts, which may not occur until the end of the year.
No.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
By Allison,
Second.
second by Shampoo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. I believe. Yes, Nick?
I'd like to roll right into what Denise just brought up. So am I allowed to speak about it if it's at the end of the agenda?
There's.
I mean, we don't want to know what's up.
It's an executive session item, so it's not.
Not
it's
just
not.
the executive session, but just how ridiculous it looks, I guess, to those of us that are paying attention. And when you look at it from a citizen's point of view, team morale, what it must be like to go to work, not knowing if you have a job the next day, you're gonna be fired, litigation, I mean. It's weird. It is. that needs to be said out loud.
Okay.
So are we allowed to find out what it's all about?
Nick, I guess this is a,
How
I
about this?
appreciate what you're saying.
Is anybody else allowed to answer besides Louise or Nate?
If anybody else wants to speak right now,
Denise can respond.
What's your question? Pat?
My question is why is Julie's name on an agenda every single time there's something sent out? Personnel, village board, constantly going into closed session. I went to the meeting December 17th. Louise walked in and said I wasn't allowed to be there. It's weird. I mean, it seems underhanded.
It was a closed session, that's why no one from the public was allowed to be in
well,
that.
hold on, I need to correct that, because when you came in, Nick, I said, yes, you can be there for part of this meeting when we go into
Yeah.
closed session. That's what I said to you that
Right.
way. I didn't
That's what I
say,
mean.
no, you can't come to this meeting.
Right, so I mean, I'm allowed to be there until
Yeah.
it's put into closed session. I went to find out anything at all. I mean, from a person's perspective who's trying to develop in this village, and I'm on my third village administrator in 10 years, right? This is the third. How many months is this gonna go on that her name is going to continue to be put on the, and I think about the other employees that work with her in the office. Team morale, what is it like? How hard is it to go to work? Are they fearing for their jobs? It looks ridiculous. It really does. It's bullying. And I've been bullied by one of the people involved with this. This is difficult to say. But I have been slandered publicly. So I know that the bullying takes place. You didn't know who I was when you came into the meeting. You introduced yourself. We had never actually met. But it's, Louise, you. So that's why I'm asking, does anybody else on the board know what this is about? Or is it just the three people that are part of the personnel committee? And when do we get to find out? Is it gonna be when she quits and sues? When you guys buy her out? Is she just gonna remain on for 18 months or 2 years or whatever her contract is? At some point, it has to stop. It has to. My fear is that the people that are on the board, 3 of them leave, 2 come on. And then is the 2 people that come on, Bridget White and Jack Anako? And then do they have the votes to fire her because you guys didn't have the votes before? I'm assuming that's how it went down, but you gotta read between the lines always, in all of these minutes. And how crazy does that look? You know, you have somebody that's actively suing the village then, that's going to be able to be in the position to sue or to fire the village administrator. Like I said, from a person's perspective that has dealt with 3 different village administrators, we're on our 3rd one. 2 people for sure are actively trying to fire her. Where do we go from there? We have to hire a 4th in 10 years? You know, I had consultants, I had Denise, Zeke, Bo, Julie. Where does it go from there? I would love an answer. We go through the whole process of not having one for a year again, and then we have to hire another one. And then if somebody else on the board doesn't like that one, then we go fire that one too. When does it stop?
Nick, this is public correspondence. This is not a dialogue at this point. There's sometimes where we do try and give answers to the public when they're simple. But I heard what you said.
I wanted
And
the rest of the board to hear it, because I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear from Patrice, and I'd love to hear from Denise. I'd like to know what the other people that aren't privy to the closed sessions that aren't being recorded, what they think.
I agree with you. That's all I'll say.
I agree with you.
I agree with you too, Nick.
It's gotta stop me. It has to stop.
I agree.
It has to stop. At some point, it has to stop. Out of the 3 village administrators that I've dealt with, by far and away the most professional, easy to deal with one that I've had.
Nick, I'm trying to make sure you get a chance to speak here, but you're
While I'm
beyond your 3
speaking, I
minutes.
came to be heard. I
Okay,
sat on this for months. I was called a crackhead by Louise Housen.
Okay, this is, okay,
I was.
we're,
I want it
That's
on the record
bullying.
that I never
That's
said
slander and that's bullying.
Nick,
Which I
I
never
was
said.
called.
Nick,
by a
Nick,
person
I
that-
Nick, this is beyond the scope of
So-
public comments
so
here.
knowing
This,
that-
you're,
knowing that
you're
this
out of order,
person is
Nick.
Specifically in charge of personnel.
your
committee
time is
meetings, They kicked
expired,
me out. They kicked me out.
please.
Knowing that this person is.
Is there anybody else that would like to
Personnel committee
speak?
meeting, and she calls people like that, names like that, she should not be in charge of personnel. That is not who should be in charge.
I did not say that.
Please don't engage.
I'm not.
Let's engage.
I was heard.
Is there anyone else in the public that'd like to speak? Nancy?
I want to be sure that I'm talking about the right thing. I understand that you're considering a historical overlay district. Is that 6C?
Yes.
I would just say thank you for even considering creating a historical overlay district, limiting the heights of buildings and maintaining more of our bluff and more of our local color. I don't know, do any of you remember when when the first condos were built in Sister Bay? And when they were built up on top of that bluff, there was a wonderful law that they could not cut down enough trees in front of them so we could see the buildings. Even if it obscured their view of the bay, they had to leave those trees there because our view of that bay was that important. Well, things have changed over the years, certainly. But creating a historical overlay district to me seems to be a very good idea. Maintain what we still have of our village. You know, our beautiful bluff view on top of the hill. Every time I drive through town, it's kind of jarring not to see our beautiful bluff view of the trees. And so I commend you for considering this, and I hope you pass it.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there anyone else up in public?
I would like to say something too. My name is John Chesky. I'm the current president of the Sister Bay Historical Society. And we wholeheartedly support the concept of the historic overlay for the village. Our whole mission is about preservation of the historic buildings. And there are a few left in Sister Bay that we feel very, very strongly about. So we will leave it up to the committee to work out the details of that ordinance, but preserve those few buildings that are left in that district for the history of the village.
Thank you. Yes.
I would like to say,
My name is Yvonne Wiltsey. I reside here in Sister Bay, and I would just agree wholly with John and with Nancy about preserving the character of this village, which I grew up here. My Wiltsey family has been here since the 1870s. And I've watched over these last few decades how business has taken over, condominiumization has taken over, and it's losing the flavor. It's losing the flavor of this wonderful, it's a village. It's not a city. It doesn't need to have 3, 4, 5 stories. And I fear that's what's happening with so much of it, that in the pursuit of tourist dollars and bringing more and more people in here, you're destroying the actual character of the village. I mean, I'm so glad you're saving the village hall. The post office is another beautiful building that's been here for so many decades. And I'd like to see that historical overlay continue without more expansion, more heights, and more, again, condominiumization.
Thank you.
Nate, I'd like to speak if I could, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Jim Razor. I don't know if people recognize the last name at all. As one of the founding families of Sister Bay. We've had our footprint in Sister Bay since 1877. I would also like to preserve the Sister Bay that I grew up in, being able to bring my family up there as we do yearly. I know we don't get up there as much as we do, but to take away the beauty of Sister Bay and to be building condos and stuff like that and not being able to visually see Sister Bay anymore is a travesty, honestly. I know the original Razor House is still there. I'd like to see that as historical preserve if that all possible. It just saddens me that all that green space that was Sister Bay is now going away. And I would just like to see the Historical Society preserve what we can of Sister Bay. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
Do we wait till the agenda item comes up and say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you changed that yet or what.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like to ask, Heidi, because I can't see who all is zooming in, but the election that's coming up and we have a bunch of people running. I wanted to know, because I don't see him here in the audience tonight, if Mr. Kelly, Ms. White, Mr. Smith, Mr. Kadanko, or Mr. Bashi were zooming into this meeting.
I don't see any of them online at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Kanako's out of the country.
Spring break.
Go on
Yeah.
to
Right,
Six.
no,
6A. Chapter 50, Health and Sanitation Garbage Service.
Okay, so this is one, that basically, it's kind of a cleanup amendment. As we talked about, chapter 18 says short-term rental operators are supposed to have drive-up service for their short-term rental. And then there was one party in particular who had said, well, can I shut that off and turn it on? We talked to the garbage company and they're like, logistically, it doesn't work that way. This is a cleanup to just make it clear that you have to have that service all year, not just on the dates your property is being rented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bertle, second by Roscoe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. A 6B, floodplain zoning.
So, we talked about this last year, the way the program works is the National Flood Insurance Rate Program comes out with maps. FEMA administers them and they have maps showing where floodplain areas are. A municipality is supposed to, protect those and regulate development within those floodplain areas. They're supposed to have a floodplain zoning ordinance. If you don't, then the DNR will step in and regulate those properties and build the municipality. So last year we passed a floodplain zoning ordinance. The DNR had issues with the template. There was errors in the template, so we had to re-adopt it. So that's what this is. It's just a correction to what was done last year.
Discussion? I'll make a motion we approve. Motion by Bell. Second. Second by Harf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 6C, chapter 66, B2 overlay height and miscellaneous amendments.
Okay, so this, if you recall, last year we started out, we had a moratorium to work on the B2 area and the B3 height. That moratorium had expired, but the Plan Commission continued to work on these amendments. They've spent about a year on them. Basically, we're looking at a couple different big things in here. One is that B2 historic overlay district, which we've heard about. And what it does is it's trying to take that B2 area where we're seeing the large tree canopies and the older buildings. And it's saying you can continue to do business the way you are. If you want to do something the way the code allows, please feel free to do it. However, if you want to do something the code normally does not allow, you can do it, but it's going to have to be architecturally compatible with historic buildings to try and create a historic looking neighborhood in that area. It's for basically what we call the triangle area. So it's Maple, Parkview, Park Lane, and Bluff. It's basically the triangle area west of Highway 42 that is currently zoned B2. The others, section in here is the B3 height restriction, section. And basically what the plan commission was trying to do was to protect the view of the water as you come down the hill. So rather than have tall buildings on each side of the highway, as you know, we have some tall buildings on the, as you come down the hill on the right-hand side. And the goal is to limit the height of those on the left so people can see over those buildings and still see the water. So we don't have, kind of, as one member had said in the meeting, I think it was a tunnel of buildings as you go down the hill. So it regulates the height in that area. The other ones are several miscellaneous amendments. We did have a public hearing on these. Every single property owner in the village received a notice of the hearing. So, and then the public hearing held that hearing. We have a few comments in there. We did make revisions based on those comments. But other than that, it's pretty much a culmination of a year's work, and to the point that the plan commission is hoping that it is adopted.
I just have one quick note here. It looks like a typo, maybe. Page 60, line 14. It says if the project is for single family residential purposes, there shall be no fee is to be charged. Should it just be no fee is to be charged? Yeah.
Nate,
Yes.
can I make a statement?
Yeah.
Fellow board members, tonight we are about to vote on creating a historic overlay district with height restrictions. This is one of the most important votes this board has before them in many years. Please give this serious thought with foresight and vision. In the 1970s, a group of concerned businessmen and residents and board members tried to save the old lumberyard and the pier with the thought of turning it into a commercial wharf with unique shops and restaurants and cafes. This effort came too late as developers got this property and turned it into the Sister Bay Yacht Club condos. This was an opportunity lost. Let's not make the same mistake. I'd like to show you Sister Bay is about. This is the lumber mill. My mom did this painting. This is why people come to Sister Bay and visit the history, the harbor, the boating, the fishing. The historical overlay district would protect what's left of old Sister Bay by encouraging historical architecture, preserving the trees, and providing a vision for the future of this neighborhood. This district would protect it from overdevelopment and high-rise condos and hotels like the Goki Luna project. This district could be a charming walk with water and bluff views, possible small shops and cafes. Mini tours could take place here, much like Ephraim, educating our visitors on how Sister Bay started. This district would be good for business, drawing visitors and residents to this area. The creation of this district would increase property values. This ordinance is a win-win for Sister Bay, protecting our history, creating a new attraction for visitors to explore, bringing more business to town for our shops and restaurants, most importantly, protecting our bluff and the harbor views. Please support this ordinance for a beautiful Sister Bay. Thank you.
Further discussion? I look at this amendments as they're imperfect. I mean, they're not exactly what I want. They're not, and that, nor should they be. This is a compromise on there. I have some concerns that we're trying to make a historic district where there's not a historic district. However, in light, if we can save something until we can make that code better, I hesitate to do that because we never revisit code. But if we don't do it now, then there's not gonna be something to save later. What is there? And you and I disagree a little bit on how much this is manufactured, how much not, but there are some places in there. So after spending a year on this, yeah, you convinced me, Trace. I hope we can make some amendments to it, and I hope we can do.
Well, the thing is, we can't go, like, so we can't go back. we
Right,
don't do this, we're gonna develop it. It's gonna be condos, it's gonna be high-rise hotels. It's gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And when it's gone, we can't pick up the history again. It will be erased.
yeah, so that's where I'm at. So, okay, all those in favor? Or is there any further discussion?
We don't have a motion in a second yet.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Bertle,
Second.
second by Roscoe, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Chapter 62, utility code.
So this came out of the Utilities Committee, and it is basically an update to the utility code. That code hadn't been worked on for quite a while. Megan, our utilities director, also found some areas where we were just totally lacking regulation. As you look through it, you'll see those areas, they're the new sections. Megan is on the call in case, or on the Zoom call in case there are questions, but you'll see it's much more comprehensive when we talk about water meters, things we've never talked about before. It makes it so that when we're asking somebody to do something, it's actually backed up by code. So it's a necessary update to chapter 62.
Discussion? Motion will be in order.
So,
Motion by Roscoe. Second by Harf, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Amending the intergovernmental agreement establishing the fire board and fire department.
So as you know, the fire board has decided they want to change the membership of the board a little bit to allow citizen members to serve on there. And this did come to the board. We had agreed to move this forward. The way that board is set up and the way the code is set up, you actually have to amend the intergovernmental agreement by ordinance. And then I'm going to include the next item in my comments here. And then all of that becomes chapter 23 of the municipal code. So you're actually doing two ordinances whenever you amend the fire board regulations or code.
It should be two separate motions.
They should be two separate motions, yes. So the first one would be on the ordinance amending the intergovernmental agreement.
so this would make it basically like the other committees, right, where you can appoint presidents
Correct.
to.
They
Yeah.
could, yeah.
This was done at the fire chief's request.
So moved.
Motion by Roscoe.
This is for both. correct?
This is just for one.
Oh, just for the
It should be these separate motions.
Second.
Second by Shannon, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, F, the chapter 23 update.
Right, so then ordinance 2025-007 would be taking that amended intergovernmental agreement and making it code within the municipal code.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Roscoe,
Second.
second by Harf, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, adopting the 2025 comprehensive plan.
So the comprehensive plan is something that we've been working on for quite a while. The conversation started before I got here. I know we actually signed the contract with Bay Lake in June of 23 to help us amend the comprehensive plan. You're supposed to amend it every 20 years, keep it current. You're supposed to look at it every year, but it's a 20-year projection is what it is. So the planning commission has put a lot of work in this. As you can see, it's been almost 2 years. They've had a public hearing, they've had several meetings on it. They did have some changes, you know, kind of every time they reviewed it, so it's been a very well thought out, reviewed plan. So at this point, we would want to see it adopted. This is one of those plans that if we do not, I mean, we could still change it and come back, but this is one of those plans that if you do not adopt it, the state will withhold funding from the municipality.
So my comment on this is that, and again, I said it at the public meeting, we're reducing the combination of woodlands, natural area, and agriculture by 546 acres. And we're increasing residential by 492 acres. So I'm assuming, I don't know, again, I didn't understand why. And I didn't really get a good answer why. But the committee was very nice and did take my suggestion that a piece of what was natural and going to be turned into commercial and residential remain natural. But, you know, if the average home is half an acre, and it's probably more than that, so there'll be fewer houses, but that's 381 houses. Or however many multifamily houses or whatever else. So it really flies in the face of what Patrice just said about holding on to the character and to the green space. But the bigger piece of it too is, I read through the survey, which is lengthy and actually pretty current. They took the survey very currently. And I probably highlighted, this is pages, I mean, it's, I don't know, 15 pages. And the highlights that I made on open land, on parks, on green space, on all that stuff, being consistent, every single person. So I don't know if you read that, of course you read the survey. So when you read the survey, I still don't understand the thinking behind it. I will vote for it. Ironically, if I vote against it, I'm voting against the very thing that you changed on my behalf, which was to make part of the acreage, 48 acres, keep it natural. So I will vote for it. However, I've never seen us in any of the meetings I've ever been to, and maybe I just haven't been at the plan commission meeting, review this on an annual basis and make any revisions. So in doing this, when you make something residential, it essentially, I believe, there's one less step for a developer to have to take to come to the village and do what they want to do. So I'm a little worried about that. You know, there's parts, I get it, if you look at the map it used to be very green and the map is very yellow. Yellow is residential. So, and then we want to plan for a big increase in population. If we develop this, we will get a very big increase in population. We'll get 350 more people here. You know, it's basically, you know, it's essentially a plan. If you build it, they will come. So that's a concern of mine. So again, I will vote for it. And I went to the meeting and you guys were really very, very kind and made the changes for me, but I just worry a little bit about, it doesn't make sense. That was my comment.
I'd like to respond.
Sure.
We're not changing the zoning. It's just what we think, the plan commission thinks is the best use of that particular parcel. The
So the
zone,
500 and,
the zoning
46.
is a whole different aspect.
right?
Just because it's on the future land use map does not mean that it could not stay exactly what it is for decades. It's just what we think at this point in time. And then when you talk about the acreage that we're taking away and putting into residential, then you have to rely on the zoning code for that particular, whatever they would have it zoned to be, whether it's R1, R2, R3,
Understand.
R4.
Yep.
And then within that zoning district, you're going to find the green space area where we're going to require neighborhood parks by somebody who, if somebody wants to put up a development as a whole or a planned unit development. And so you will get some of that parks and green space in in those projects if they're developed that way.
And if it's multifamily, it's even more people. So it's still residential. I mean, I understand it's not zoned. I completely understand that. Could be R1, could be R2, could be R3, could be high density, could be a apartment building for 200 people. Yep. I understand.
Could be countryside.
Could be. It's just not gonna be green anymore.
See,
Some of it might
I
not.
disagree with that. I think
Well, then we'd have to make a change to take it from residential back to green, wouldn't we?
see, the other thing, the other thing is that people only like to use this argument most of the time when they're angry and they're not allowed to do what they want to do on their own property.
Well, this isn't my property, so it doesn't, I really don't
It's-
have anything in this.
It's that also, we could leave it all green, but there's something about property rights that,
Yeah, sure.
and so if somebody wanted to make all of this all residential anyway, we would have not necessarily a reason to not go along with it, depending upon what the argument is, okay? I'm just using some generalities. So we could leave it all green, but that doesn't mean that it's not gonna turn all residential at some point in time, maybe in 20 years, maybe in 30, 40, 50. We don't know. So it doesn't, it's not, I don't think it's as, I don't see it as necessarily as bad of a thing that we're changing it. Because if somebody owns a piece of property and they would want to rezone it, and if they wanted to put up something multifamily and we felt that was an appropriate area, we would do it. We wouldn't be able to necessarily say, no. That we're going to devalue your property because we want it to be woodlands. We cannot do that as a village.
I understand, right, I mean, this is all private property. I would say most of the people whose property has now been changed to this have no idea. I know that you'd let them know, we all know that they don't know. So I'm just saying, as a trustee, it just directionally. It flies in the face of what our resident is. I'm not mad, it's not my property, I don't use it as an excuse, I'm pointing it out, it's data.
Sally?
Sally Baker, Denise, could you repeat what you said, that this is really not changing zoning?
It does not
No.
change zoning,
No,
has nothing to do with zoning.
Okay, so if a developer wants to come and do commercial on a parcel that you have now changed to yellow, which is residential, they have to come and ask for a change in zoning or a variance or?
They would have to anyway, because I think, I don't, I'd have to scroll back, and find out what the current land use map would be dictated for that parcel right now. What, can somebody tell me
Yeah, if I
page
could just,
that's on?
I don't have
201.
I don't have the page, but just real quick, I just wanna explain something a little bit. Back in the day, 20 years ago, when we did our future land use maps or existing land use maps, we kind of showed every tree where every little clump was. A lot of those parcels have, you know, if it's completely wooded parcel, it showed that as remaining a woodland. Which means that person cannot develop their property, which isn't right, right? That if you're in a wooded neighborhood, a lot of people want to put a house on their lot. But when it shows up as a woodland, and you're supposed to be following your land use map, your zoning eventually follows your land use map. You've now said that properties cannot be developed for single family homes. So now what you do is you don't show every little tree, every little group of trees. You say this area is to develop residentially. Later, when you work on zoning, you're gonna say, is that R1? Is that R2? So what you previously saw as maybe a big woodland area now shows up as residential because you're saying, and these people can build a home on their lot. So you're not having that taking, you're saying, this is an area where we want to see it develop residentially. Now, to answer your question, Sally, if somebody wanted to come in and now make that commercial, they have to go back and they actually have to amend the land use plan. And then a lot of times they'll, depending on where it is, they're just gonna go for a rezone. But if, let's say the map shows it as commercial and they wanna go from B1 to B3, that's a rezone because it's already shown as commercial in the plan. But if it's shown as residential in the plan and now they wanna go commercial, they have to go back and amend this document.
Well, first of all, we would have to agree
Yes.
that we thought that was a good idea. And I doubt that where we have residential on the future land use map, that we would ever put commercial there.
Right, but you know, if you So if you left those old green areas all green and somebody came in to build a house, we would have to say, I'm sorry, that's not consistent with our land use map. You have to go amend it, and it's a big deal to amend your land use plan. Because you have to notify the Department of Administration, you have to have public hearings, et cetera. So that's why you're seeing more residential here. Does that mean you're now gonna allow 5 homes on that lot? No, zoning is still gonna dictate it. Most of those areas will still just be 1 home per lot. I can't imagine the village would change that.
20,000 square feet, right?
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah.
So does your zoning, is that a separate vote then, or does this in
So-
effect change the zone?
So what you're supposed to do, what the state wants you to do, is now that you have a new land use plan, they want you to, next step is go look at your zoning code, your zoning maps, and say, does anything have to be changed to be consistent with the document you just adopted? So the next step for the plan commission will be to start that whole review process. Since I've been here, the plan commission has been religiously reviewing that code almost, I don't wanna say every meeting, but a lot of meetings. So they've done a lot to keep it current. So hopefully we won't have too much work to do. But yes, they are gonna have to look at it and say, now what do we do? For example, you're seeing residential areas in here. The plan commission has said, we're making it residential, but in the comp plan, we're not defining, is that single family, is that 2-family, is that multifamily? We'll address that when we look at the zoning part of it. So this is kind of your phase 1, and yet down the line, they do have to look at
Down the
zoning.
line, it will either be R1, R2, or R3.
Or they may not even have R1,
I
R2, or 3, they may
I know.
even change it.
Just opens the door. I do have a question on map 7.2, which is on, let's see, page 203. I see that, the old golf course stayed green, but you left the front commercial?
Right, that was my understanding from our meeting. They wanted that commercial strip, and then that interior area was,
That was not my understanding.
That was my understanding.
So that on the hill?
Yeah, we talked about that.
On the hill going into Little Sister. Into the Little Sister Road and the cemetery, that's gonna be commercial?
not by the cemetery. So the commercial
Yeah, it
is
is.
just the red.
I know, I'm looking at.
Yeah, the
That's
the
the hill.
cemetery there is
The cemetery is the green and it goes back, so there'll be commercial as you drive down.
next to the multifamily.
Right, as you drive down to Pebble Beach.
And I can answer that. So the plan commission, when they were looking at it, they have very limited land left for business. So they said, let's keep it pretty much focused along our corridors and not branching down the side streets. So where else can you do that is to extend it along your corridors.
So that's a side street, half of that. On the west side of 42, it's a side street.
Yeah,
It's
there's,
Little
and
Sister Road.
what they're showing is a certain area, just so paralleling the highway is where they intend someday there would be commercial.
Yes, Dick?
Thank you, Dick Ross, 23408 Drive. I just had a question for Julie, based on what you just said, specific, is the passage of this take place tonight, or is there multiple meetings before it takes place? And the reason I ask is, we have an evaluation coming up of different sites in the village, potentially for the administration building. And if in fact this is adopted tonight, and then this particular committee would decide that this piece of property would be good, and it didn't fall into the identified plan, land use plan that is adopted tonight. And you just said that it makes it very difficult then to go back into, is it premature if we're going to do this? Does it any way affect that evaluation? Does it limit that evaluation?
Well, no, because I think that the zoning ordinance we have right now will be in effect for a while. You know, we know eventually that's our next step, but that, I think amending that zoning ordinance, redoing that zoning code, I'm guessing is going to take about 2 years.
But I think you said the land use ordinance, which is what you're evaluating tonight, is you didn't say Herculean task, but it's a significant task because it has to be amended through the state, et cetera, et cetera. So even though it isn't rezoning, does this specific action tonight affect that evaluation?
Well, first of all, I don't think we have anything really new that would be government. So most likely, if there was a parcel out there that was chosen differently, it would have to, we would have to rezone it anyway. Because we don't have, other than what the village currently owns, or that is a church or the daycare or whatever. We haven't put that color on any map anyplace else. So if a different site were chosen, we would have to go through that process no matter what. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I mean, I just didn't want to. If in fact we're going to put this cart on the road, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, the zoning for that type of land use is pretty consistent with what you're seeing on the future land use map. They're pretty, it reflects pretty much what's out there right now.
Thank you.
Discussion?
So moved.
By Berto,
Second,
second by Shampo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Item H, establishing an ad hoc village administration building review task force and appointments. Yep, that is mine. So I have been talking to Dick a few times here, trying to figure out the best way to move forward based on what we've discussed at the board. I did have the appointment, the membership be not specifying whether they are trustees or citizens. There will be at least one trustee on there, likely two in the coming month. I also intend to participate that as an ex officio member. I know Lily, you had said you might have some interest in doing that. You did. You have it written, so you could potentially be on there if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You do?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. We're gonna amend that to also include Joy.
I thought in the minutes, we said it wasn't gonna be bigger than 7, or am I remembering wrong?
I thought it was, we had a goal of 7. I didn't think it was a hard set limit at 7.
I already have 7.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, as,
Maybe I'm remembering wrong from the minutes of that conversation.
I guess I just taken from it that 7 was the goal, and if I thought it was on a committee like
Not
this.
that I don't want you to be on it, but
I think 7's a better number than 8 for committee, and I just feel like uneven numbers are always better.
Sure.
So keep it at 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then we've got this task force reporting to the village board in June of 25 this year. Any questions? Dick, you want to say anything?
Well, yes, I would like to say I appreciate the opportunity. I consider it an important task and an important analysis. I do not want this to take a lot of time. I know you're all busy, and we'll be reporting back to you hopefully within a couple months. Thank you to those who are willing to serve. I think this is a good opportunity. Again, I really appreciate the work that people have done, but I think that an quasi outside analysis will be a good thing. It is my intention to, at the first meeting, develop a schematic, if you will, to look at each parcel of property. And by the way, I did have 14 pieces. I know one board member wanted about 14 pieces, and that's since that time, there have been others that have contacted me and have said, we would like these properties analyzed as well. I don't know, Mr. President, if you want me to go that far or I think you had mentioned that you may want to open it up to the board, but the criteria that I used in developing my list was looking at village pieces of property, looking at pieces of property that have been bantered about in Sister Bay. And I've got to believe that at that first meeting, or at the second meeting, and we hope to tighten these up quite a bit, a good number of those properties will be eliminated for a number of reasons. But I think it's important that we look at these properties because people have brought it up over the course of time. For example, the Village Hall, for example, Christ's Market, for example, the parcels at the Wilsey property, and there are four of the 14 are on the Wilsey property itself from different locations. One off of ZZ, one off of Woodcrest, one off of Autumn Court, and one off of Scandia. All four of those will be analyzed in the schematic that we will use, and the schematic will include things like, are there multiple uses of parking? Are there is there access to sewer and water? What is that cost analysis, et cetera, et cetera? And I would expect that in the first and second meeting, we narrow it down considerably and then appoint people on the committee to look at depth on these pieces of property and then report back and develop a schematic in a relatively short amount of time. I don't expect that there will be a final vote on a particular piece of property. Again, using the point system, we will probably present you an analysis of what this group felt about the 14 pieces, or it might boil down to 5 pieces. And again, if you have parcels that you're interested in us looking at, we will consider that, or I would consider that. But the answer that we come up with will hopefully satisfy some of the people who said, you know, I think I mentioned at a recent gathering that we had that people complained for years that there was never seriously look at the top of the hill for the library and the administration building. And now we're sitting here with those condos up there where we could have been a magnificent facility, much like Egg Harbor, looking out over their harbor. Well, you can't go back, just like somebody said earlier today, you can't go back. But we can analyze and move forward. So the other part of this that I wanted to clear up, Nate, is we've heard testimony from village workers, and I think sound testimony that the property that they're currently on and in is not good for a number of reasons. And do you want this committee to analyze temporary housing for the administrative staff? And I don't expect an answer tonight, but I will tell you that I've already had contact from someone coming back to me about temporary facilities for the administration staff. And I didn't know if we just wanted to rule it out or say, should we look at that at all?
That's part of the resolution right now. Is to actually look at an possible interim options. And as far as the number of units, or the number of locations, I'd like you to have whatever you're gonna look at set by the end of the first meeting. If that's 14, fine. If that's 20, fine. But I guess what I don't want to see happen is meeting 2, we say, okay, yeah, we want to add this one and this one and this one. So I think that once you figure out how many you want to review, you know, adding other ones that you hadn't thought of, because I'm sure there's other ones out there that have come up. By all means, add those. But I don't want to have us come back meeting 2, meeting 3, and say, okay, well, we need to look at this one and circle back that far. I want to make sure we keep moving forward, if that makes sense to you.
Well, I agree, but some of what gets out as you establish a committee like this is a bit of a hunt for Red October. You know, again, I had a contact from a business person in town. You should really look at these properties. I didn't realize they were for sale. Well, everything is for sale. Would you look at these properties? And it's not a hunt and peck. It's what can we find and what is the ultimate, what we feel that is the ultimate best location. And again, there may be multiple locations recommended out of this study, but it'll come before the board, and it ultimately will be your decision.
Discussion?
Just, last time that we met, I asked, Nate, for a list of the 14 sites. He said, he had a list or knew of 14 sites. Can you forward that to me, please, Dick, at my village email?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you. And if any other ones pop up too, before you send it to me. Thanks.
I will tell you that, Bertles by the Bay is not currently on the site, so.
I would never want it to be on your list, ever.
I have a question, who picked the people to be on this committee? And I must have missed something, because I would have loved to have served on this committee.
So reached out to, had a conversation with Dick. Remember these folks volunteered? And then I reached out to Kurt and I said, I saw Kurt last week, while I had a meeting, and I said, Kurt, would you like to be on there?
So you had
If
to
you
be
want.
asked,
Pardon?
you had to be asked.
No, you could
No, you could
volunteer.
volunteer.
too. I volunteered.
Yeah, there's
Joe
people that emailed and volunteered.
It's been discussed in the
You were
last
at that
meeting
meeting.
too.
Yeah.
Can we hear who's on the list?
Was it?
Yes,
Sure, yeah. Dick Burris, Ken Church, Kurt Harf, Chris Hecht, Ron Kane, Bridget White, Jill Beebe. That was in the packet, it was included.
And Nate, if I could also just add. Part of this evaluation, obviously, will need to be discussion with administrative staff and personnel from everybody from sewer to water to parks and recs, so that we can evaluate subject materials. So if they could just be informed that we're not Elon Musking them, but we're asking.
Yeah. Yes.
And then Dick, so just so this is a village committee, so we are gonna have to make sure we have agendas posted, minutes, etc.
Yeah, that was the other part. Who will do the minutes? Is that someone in the committee or someone from village staff person? Because in the posting of the agendas, but I think it's what, 3 days? To the meeting prior to 4 days.
Well, you need 24-hour notice, but we try to give as much as we can,
Okay,
and it depends on how much time there is.
perhaps Julie, I'll just stop by and we'll go through some
Yeah.
stuff. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Come in the morning though, because I have a eye doctor appointment.
Okay.
Will these be zoomed?
Pardon?
Will these be zoomed? Is it gonna be hybrid? Are they zoomed in person or both?
Oh, I presumed it was gonna be out in the field.
I don't know that certainly the first meeting will not be in the field. We will evaluate, we will meet to set criteria. And then assignments will be made and, analysis. Data or criteria will be developed. So I don't think it'll be field meeting as a group. Perhaps people will be sent out to a particular piece to report back.
Okay, so the first one's in person, wherever you can find a meeting room, okay.
Do you want to be added to the list, Patrice?
Yes.
Okay. That would give us to 8.
Oh, then
Lily
Lily can be 9.
Then
I'll
The
join
third-
another.
So that's good on Monday. 9's good.
Patrice's.
okay,
Patrice.
so then motion to approve resolution 2025-02 amended with Tree Shampoo as a member.
So moved.
Motion by Roscoe,
Second.
second by Berto. All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed, motion carries. And then extending term for ad hoc holiday lighting and parking task forces. Those 2 committees have not met.
So
They've
moved.
expired.
Second.
I just have a comment. Do we really want to extend parking task force? Is that still something that we want to pursue? This is
I
just
think that's
me.
an important question. I mean, I wish we would have had the time to do it.
Yeah.
We haven't. I think that we should take, if we don't do it this time, then no, I don't think so.
I
But
just don't know if that's something we want to keep pursuing. I mean, I think I've been really clear about my position with adding parking in the village, that's something I don't really support.
I don't, so that when you create something like this, you don't have a set conclusion at the beginning.
Right.
So this may be to advise it to not add parking to the village.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's,
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't met, so. I'm just wondering if
okay,
I want to keep pursuing the parking task force.
I think we should, if you feel otherwise, that's certainly. Any other discussion, any other thoughts?
I don't think we need one, but that's. I think,
Does anyone else think we need a parking task force?
I don't know what commission is, I'm not quite sure, we had one before, in 2016. Chris Milligan was on it, I inherited his files. They're that thick. I just don't know what commission is, if I knew it, if I was really confident in the goal and what could be accomplished.
It's whatever
I mean,
the direction the committee is given
yeah, I mean,
is their goal.
so
I don't know what the direction is.
So I look at the direction as looking at parking in Sister Bay, seeing what should be done moving forward, and what other. I think that we've got a lot more parking than we really need, but I think we need to look at that, and that's not something the plan commission is gonna do. Maybe we don't have enough, I'm not sure, I wanna ask that question, look at
And I
it,
don't
see what
know-
other places are doing with it. I think one big question I would have is, are we making the most out of the existing parking we've got, and just looking to see what that could look like. It hasn't met, I mean, it didn't meet last time it was appointed, so if we don't wanna do it. I think we should do it, I'm the only one. Doesn't happen.
I think it's worth, I think almost anything is worth a conversation.
Right, and we did have a lot of comments in the
Comp
surveys
plan.
that we took.
Yeah.
Everyone complained about the parking and the traffic,
They did, right.
so, at least we should,
I just wonder if we've ever
Look at
really
it.
done a study and hadn't hired somebody to actually do a study that took into consideration everything. So it takes into consideration, you know, our population, of course, our visitors, transportation that's available. And I mean, those studies are very expensive. But I just don't know that people on a committee like this would be equipped to really pull data in that would really give you, do you know what I mean? I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is anecdotal or how somebody feels. I can't get a place to park when I go for dinner in July.
The-
I can't, you know what I mean? I think if you have somebody who's pulling data that would, based on how much business you should have, what kind of business it is, what their hours are, there are companies that do that, but it's expensive.
I think you can do something without spending a lot of money on it. I think you
Okay,
can-
I
you can
I
start
don't
that.
know that we've ever, I don't think we've ever.
Do I think we should,
I'm not sure.
I'm not suggesting we're gonna spend a lot of village time or staff time or money on this, but
I don't,
I still think we should. So that was a motion for both Denise.
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Berto,
shampoo seconded it.
second by Shampoo.
I did.
All those in favor?
okay.
Hi.
Opposed?
Who's on parking? Who's on the parking committee, you know?
Don Cox.
The Mike Blaskowitz.
Okay.
If anybody else wants to be on that, by all means. Those are the only people I could get to agree to do it. I asked Dick, he wouldn't. Okay. Amending committee bylaws.
So we try to look at the bylaws at least once a year, usually twice a year. We had a bigger change, come for the description of the responsibilities of the personnel committee. So it was pretty lengthy, so that, triggered us to look at it and say, okay, should we, instead of wait until summer, should we just do all the amendments right now? So you'll go through, you'll see the things, the small changes, you'll see changes to reflect, for example, the village administration building review task force, which will have to amend to say 8 members now. But, so it's, cleanup like that. The main change was to the personnel committee and what their responsibilities were.
So I have a concern on page 256. Under number 8, committees and commissions. And it says this also in the other set of bylaws. that the president shall serve as ex officio of all committees, commission, and boards organized by the village. And I remember when we added that years ago, it was that we were having a problem with, I think it was Parks and the Marina Committee, and quite a few of their meetings they weren't able to have because they couldn't have quorums. I don't think that we have that anymore, so that's why we inserted this in there. And I don't know that it was ever actually utilized that I'm aware of for that purpose. But my concern is that we had a parks meeting where the village president showed up, sat at the table, and we had an illegal board meeting because we had 4 board members present and it wasn't posted. So any committee that has 3 members, and so that's a problem because we had a quorum of the board. And we do not define what ex officio is anywhere that I can find. The intent was, and anybody newer would not know what the intent was to fill a spot if there was an important meeting that needed to be had and there was a quorum issue. And then the village president would have voting privileges. So I think we need to determine what ex officio means to determine when they can or can't sit in at a meeting unless we post it as a board. Whether they're a voting member or not, whether they sit at the table or not. I think we have a problem here.
So how I interpret it, and I understand there's not a definition, but what was in my head when I was here is, okay, you're at the meeting, you're an ex officio, you don't vote. Because that's how it is at the county level.
That's how it is at DDC. and
Yeah, you can-
DCTC.
But
You can speak,
most
but-
places, it is a voting.
Okay,
I scoured the internet but we don't define it also as voting or non-voting. And if you're sitting at the table, now we have a board quorum.
versus being in the audience.
Right, listening. Instead of it, unless we want them to be. I don't know how we deal with that. I don't know the legality of it all. All I'm saying is that it presented itself. It was an illegal meeting that we had. How do we address it?
If we define the duties of ex officio, as we see it, for the Village of Sister Bay, that's step 1. And wouldn't that also include if they are ex officio for all meetings, I'm sorry, all
Then-
committees and or board, well, not the board, but all committees, then wouldn't we also define what they can and can't do, including sitting at a table, in that role, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing here, the notes I'm having is we need to create a definition and the conditions of when they can be participating in a meeting and vote, and what if their presence results in a majority of the board. So those are the things I'm hearing that need to be defined. Probably bring this back.
Yeah, that would seem to me to take care of it. Unless,
But then Julie, would you agree that if somebody is in the audience, if a board member chooses to attend a 3-person, a committee with 3 trustees, there's not a quorum issue if they're in the audience and then I'm not participating?
Absolutely. If you have a trustee and they're just sitting there and they're not participating, they're not voting, there's not an issue there, but they're also not an ex officio member.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that happens a lot.
So the ex officio member, they're actually acting as a member of that committee.
I mean, this has come up a whopping 1 time, but I understand your point, Denise, and it was.
We never thought about it before
Well,
until it
somebody sat in
happened.
the audience. would have been different.
Yeah,
And not participated.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can clean that up. Based on the conversation tonight too, we would have to change on page 258, that village administration building review from 7 stakeholders to 8. And then the same thing on page 270, where we talk about the village administration task force, we would have to change that from 7 members to 8.
Yeah, I would think we should adopt what we got here tonight so that we actually have that and then revisit that. at
That's
publish.
fine.
Adopt it with the changes from 7 to 8, though, right?
Yes.
So then the other comment I have is on page 268 under the Personnel Committee. Item number 8, responsible for recruitment and hiring of the village administrator. Is that saying that 3 people can hire a village administrator without village board approval?
No, it should go to the board. I mean, I don't know what happened last time you were chair of personnel. Yeah,
We brought the candidates, we had a meeting with the entire board and the
yeah, it should
candidates.
go to the board, for sure.
I think then that needs to be amended with board approval or something.
So we could say, just in, like, as in item 9, make recommendation to the board. Go through the interview process, or whoever is on personnel. We go through the recruiting and the running process, so probably a better way would, or another way would be to recruit. Recruiting includes interviewing, but recruit, interview, and make recommendations.
And not the hiring, because it
And
should
then
be the
make
entire
recommendations
board
to the
is.
board- to the board for hiring, yeah. We went through that with with Julie, I didn't catch that, neither did they. Yeah.
I did pull morals and prosperity off the plan commission. I was not comfortable with morals and I thought there might be some debate about prosperity, but everything I've ever dealt with plan commission says, don't think about money.
Don't think
So-
about money. Thank you. That's all that I have.
Somebody, let's go.
Second.
Second by Allison. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, financial policies. Okay, is this Vlad?
This is Vlad.
So we're going back to revised financial policies. We reviewed back at Finance Committee on March 10. As I mentioned then, Julie suggested back in the fall to make this winter project to organize all financial policies into one booklet, make sure everything is in one place. And not just organize, revise, audit, and change. So after Finance Committee meeting, we agreed that some changes needs to happen based on input from Finance Committee, like named Julie, Denise, and Louise. So that's the final, right now, final draft. Do you have any questions?
No, I think you did a really thorough job. Lays everything out.
Yeah.
It's nice that it's in one
Yeah, it's
spot.
nice, it's in one spot instead of 3. Right?
Great work, Vlad.
It's through team effort between Heidi, Julie, Adam, all of you guys.
Well, kudos to everybody.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Berto, second by Roscoe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. So the next 3 items are for the CDBG application. I asked Julie to put that on there because I'm sure people would have some questions of why did this suddenly come up? Julie? We have to pass these as they're presented to be compliant?
We could do them all at once, but so as you know, we're applying for the CDBG grant for the renovation of the village hall. It requires the adoption of a lot of ordinances, resolutions. I didn't have time to put them all on here, so we have these tonight, and then next month we have more. We're actually gonna have a public hearing. The Village Hall Planning Task Force is gonna hold a public hearing on citizen public participation plan. We're gonna have to adopt that public participation plan. We're gonna have to have a resolution committing to funding it if we get the grant, and then we're gonna have to have a resolution to actually send in the application. But for now, these are the ones that I have present. We have, or before you, is prohibits the use of excessive force and to enforce applicable state and local laws prohibiting physically barring entrance exits for non-violent civil rights demonstrations. And I do have to add, although these are required as part of that CDBG application, much of this we should have in place anyway. The next one, number 2007, is residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. This one basically says if we're gonna displace people as a result of renovating the village hall, we would have to make sure we find them housing. That's not an issue because we don't have people living there. We don't have people right next door. We still do have to replace it, or I'm sorry, we still do have to adopt it. We also have the resolution to adopt fair and open housing. In CDBG, you have to understand they require a lot of this because a lot of their programs are housing related. However, this is one where I think the village should be looking at it anyway. I think we should make sure that people are not being discriminated against in their housing, so it's really, and you want to keep it open and fair to people. So I think that it's a good ordinance regardless. That's up to you if you want to adopt it. And I kind of wrote it, so you know, you start with a template, and then with this one, I tweaked it a little bit to make it very clear that this would be something we support anyway throughout the village to make sure people are treated fairly.
So the grant deadline is May.
May 15th.
Okay. And at next month's meeting, we'll deal with the other ones. We'll also have to have a resolution that we will fund it.
Well, that you're gonna have commit funds if you get the grant.
Okay, and we currently have, I think, 150,000 in there for the design, and then 500,000 the following year. What, is there a limit on the grant, or?
There is, so the highest award you can get is $1 million.
Okay.
And it's a 2-to-1 match, so because we have 500,000 set aside and you can get $1 million, basically our project could be 1.5 million. Anything beyond that, we're gonna have donations or just not do that part of the project.
Okay, so 1 million is the max. And do we have any, is this under HUD?
No.
Who is it under?
Department of Energy, Housing, it's DEHCR.
And has that federal department been dismantled yet?
Not that I'm aware of. As a matter of fact, they've had a training session on the program for this year. So I think as far as we know, it's still moving forward.
And how big of a pot of money do they have? Do you know? I know that's kind of a.
Oh, I'm trying to think offhand.
You know, is it $10 million?
I think it's like 40. Don't quote me on this, people. I'm just trying to remember from my notes because I had to write them up for the public hearing. That's going to be happening. It was, I think, 47 million for Wisconsin.
Oh, just for Wisconsin.
Again, don't quote me. I'd have to go back and look at those notes, but that rings a bell for me.
Yes.
So is there been a plan already in place for what you do with $1 million?
Yeah, so the Village Hall Planning Task Force has been meeting for about 2 years now. They actually had an architect draw up some plans that went to the Parks Committee. I think it even came to the board. They made some revisions to that. And then we're having a designer currently put that more like a building plan, where you could actually go out and do some work with it, and do the project. It's not full engineering drawings, they're not showing the electrical, the HVAC. I'm hoping that doesn't cause a problem for us, because CDBG usually wants to see that kind of detail. But a lot of this is just structural, doing work to the stage, opening it up to have a window, putting an addition on the back. There is a front side entry that was proposed, so we do have that. I want to say that was reviewed maybe 9 months ago, a year ago. Does that sound about right?
It's been quite a while.
Yeah. So, and then I think it was November or December, November maybe, that we actually decided to move forward and pursue a CDBG grant. It just took this long to get this far.
So moved on all three of them.
Motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Roscoe, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, action item 7A, accept bid on sports complex sewer lateral.
Okay, Megan is on the line if we need her, but as you know, we're running a sewer lateral kind of across the sports complex so that we can provide sewer and water cost effectively to our parks maintenance building. It will also eventually help the TKH building when we do work out there. And it
No.
also,
Say the new community / warming house.
that building, and then it will also allow us to install restroom addition on the concession stand. So this has been in the works again. I think maybe since June, maybe longer, that we've been talking about it. Skylar Witalison from Stantec has done the engineering on it. His responsibilities also included putting the project out to bid. And you can see here the lowest bidder was Great Lakes. This is one where you're required by law to adopt the lowest bid unless there's some real reason why we would not.
So their name is not familiar to me. I'm not aware that the village has worked with this company before.
Megan, I don't have that file here. I believe they're from Door County, but do you have more information on them, Megan, or can you pull that up quick?
Their name
Even
was
Bailey's
just,
Harbor? Megan, do I see their trucks in Bailey's Harbor? Is that same company?
all I know is just that their name was Great Lakes Excavating and Rock, I think it was. I don't recall ever seeing any of their trucks anywhere, but I believe Skylar told me that he talked to somebody that used them for one of their projects and they had nothing bad to say.
And you think that they're based in Door County? I think I would have heard of them.
Well, the only reason why, again, I wish I had those files in front of me. I don't know, Heidi, are you able to access the A drive from here? No.
I can. Let me see if I can get it quick. I'll see if I can get that.
There's one in Milwaukee, there's nobody in Door.
I can get, I can get.
Sturgeon Bay?
835 Egg Harbor Road in Sturgeon Bay.
Yeah, they showed up in a Levine ice shirt, so I'm.
Does it say who the owner is?
Contract.
I guess the question I'd have, Megan, is this from the bids you've taken, is this variation from high to low? Is that what you'd expected? Or is this, because that's quite a big difference between low to high bidder.
Yeah, it's not really what I expected. I figured they would all kind of be more in line. Usually there's not that big of an outlier.
Well, the difference is, I mean, the larger ones, they don't give you the detail. They just give you a total. So where the smaller ones, you know, they're, when you look at the line items are more complete. The more expensive ones, and I don't know what this means, honestly, but the more
Yeah.
expensive.
They
That's it.
didn't want the job.
The more expensive ones don't give you line items. So for instance, well, you guys can all look at the attachments, see. So they wouldn't tell you what the new sanitary lateral connection is gonna cost, where the other ones are, you know, detailed by line.
Which means that they already have enough work. They'll do it if they get the bid and can make
Yeah, I
this
would assume
amount of
somebody
money.
bids high because they don't want the work, but why even bid? What's the point?
Because you never know if you're gonna be, nobody bids on it. That happens a lot up here, a lot of different projects.
Okay.
I think they wanted the work, they. At the, so this is a sealed bid. The people that bid come, they sit in my office. And Megan and Skylar, and we unseal the package. And you start going through the bids.
Do you have people sitting on the floor if they're all in your office?
We did, yep, they're standing, they're all over.
They bring their
Um,
own shit.
So
Roof
Great
was
Lakes
low
is,
too, and they gave us some pretty lower, they gave us some detail, which was good.
so,
We know them.
so Great Lakes is, out of Sturgeon Bay, it's, Levine, the Levine family.
Okay.
Who had the
Ice.
ice
Yeah.
and formerly the liquor store way back when.
Okay, so moved.
Motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Harp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I ask one question? Is the force main going out of that? Or is that being stayed where it is?
It will be removed in the future.
So this isn't part of that project?
Correct. I'm correct, right?
The force main,
The old,
What goes to concession stand now at the ice rink?
oh, at the ice rink. So that is a failing, that tank there that's out there. It was, are you talking about the lift station that's out there, Ken?
How you
Oh,
get
the-
sewer and
there-
water,
no,
how you get
there-
sewer and water, there's a, that goes into the forest main.
Yeah, they'll still have the sewer and water. We'll connect everything together as it goes past the TKH building. The part that changes by the TKH building is there's a lift station in there that's failing, that tank is gonna have to be removed. When they do the TKH project, or I'm sorry, the community center warming house project.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but no, so everything will be connected to this line as it goes through there.
Okay, but that isn't including that as of this project then? You couldn't do
The
it all at
lift
the same
station.
time?
the lift station.
Yeah, get that out of there.
You know why we could not, and I'll tell you why, because that, believe it or not, this is being funded for as part of the Parks Building project, because the Parks Building project, or when we started this, we thought we could connect to that lift station. Come to
Correct.
find out it's failing, hey, no, you have to run a lateral to it. Do you go up the road? Do you go across the sports complex?
Correct.
Going across the sports complex was the most cost effective. Benefits a lot of other, the concession stand, et cetera. But it's actually that Parks Building project that ends up putting the bill or paying for this lateral. So no, it's not doing anything extra, right? So as far as taking out that old lift station, no, when somebody works on that community center, that's gonna be theirs, because otherwise we would have exceeded the budget that we had for the Parks Building.
Okay, it just seems to me that if you're in that general area,
We agree.
you would do it all at the same time to save money, whether it's added a little bit more or not. I mean, it seems kind of silly to
Yeah.
me.
We agree, and so did Tyler, but we didn't have that money budgeted.
Okay,
Seven B, vendor concession contract.
This came out of the Parks Committee, so, many of you know, there's people that rent kayaks down there, we have somebody that does Segway the Door. So their contracts were done, so we opened it up we did an RFP for new vendors. We did have 3 people, respond, and the Parks Committee decided to go with 2 of them and offer them a contract. It is, basically for the kayak rentals at Waterfront Park, and then the Segway tours of the sports complex. I wrote the contracts, they are in here, if there's any questions, I can answer those.
So moved.
Motion by Berto,
Second,
second by Roscoe, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
C, terminate easement boathouse area.
So years ago, when we transferred that property or when we acquired that property, there was an easement out there and staff questioned, why wasn't that easement ever dissolved? So I reached out to Randy and he has drafted this easement, termination easement, to make sure that the old owners don't have their heir successors assigned don't have the exclusive right to that easement, because it is our property. So it's a correction.
Second by Roscoe,
Second.
second by Shampo, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approve open book for the meetings.
So the assessor for the village has suggested the dates of November 29th for open book, which is not your responsibility. That is them sitting on the phone, taking calls from interested residents to discuss their property assessments. And then Monday, June 9th for the Board of Review. That is the mandatory 2-hour meeting that the Village Board of Trustees conducts for anyone who has filed an objection for their property. You see any issues with those dates at this time? Because the assessor, as soon as we approve them, we'll get them published on the DOR website, which is.
Well, in a month, our board is turning over. So does that
Yeah.
create a problem, if there would be conflicts with new board members?
I asked that a question of it, it's always been the board. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the board,
Mhm.
it does have to be the board.
Yeah, the
There's-
Board
okay.
of Review is the Board of Trustees.
We
It
had
always-
board members that didn't come last year.
Just one, I think. I don't recall.
Denise didn't come, who else?
I think as long as you have a quorum at the board.
Okay.
Any-
Yeah, it's
any meeting.
usually-
It's a minimum of
One,
3.
yeah.
It's a minimum of 3.
Okay.
But they didn't give us a whole lot of choices for meeting dates, and it's based on state statute of when you're required to meet, and then our assessor's availability, because they do have responsibilities to other municipalities.
I feel like the last 2 years, it's been on a Monday, 6 to 8. I don't remember exactly, but it sounded right around there.
Do we have this building that day?
No, it'll be at the village hall.
I'm sure it was last time.
It's always has been.
Yeah.
Have we had the open book done by phone in the past?
Yes.
Okay. So we have to specify the dates now to meet this timeline, and I guess if we have
If something comes up, we can change this, that once the dates are set, they do get published online so that people who are looking can find the information when the Board of Review meets, so they can plan accordingly.
Okay.
And then at next month's meeting, we'll talk about required training.
And NIMS training.
Anybody want to make a motion on my dates?
motion, we approve
Second.
by Val, second by House, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Committee appointments, Plan Commission. Skip Heidler reached out to me about 2 months ago. Sat down and had a conversation with him. I gave you his information. Denise, I think he'd have he's attended a few Plan Commission meetings. I think he's got a pretty good idea of what Plan Commission is. We have 2 vacancies. We need to have somebody on there, and I think Skip would be a good fit.
He's on the video if you need him.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bertle, second by Housen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Monthly financial reports and appropriations. I'll make a motion that we approve the bills in the amount of $342,963.30.
Second.
Motion by Bell, second by Roscoe. Discussion?
I just want to say one thing. I had an additional report, so it's suggested by Amber. It's paid report, so it has check number. So
Yeah, that was first in the packet.
Yeah, and then it was by vendor. Yep.
So it just has a check number. That's,
Uh-huh.
that's what was suggested by auditors.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Motion carries. Committee reports. My first page here. Okay, Finance Committee.
I would like to take the opportunity tonight to amend those.
Okay.
Page 1, line 46. I would like it to read, is not his sole authority to exceeded his authority. And I would like for the record to show that I also asked why no one contacted village staff. And I would also like to add, because it was said multiple times, that Heidi did, according to the minutes of the December 10th meeting where this decision was made, that Heidi did exactly what the finance committee told her to do. Because you even said that a couple of times, and I think that should be in here.
Questions?
May I ask a question?
Okay.
Was Dave Elliott contacted by anybody?
I contacted Dave Elliott when I found out that the ad was pulled.
You did contact?
I did.
What did he say?
I talked to multiple people. And I would say that there was no consistency in the story that I got from each individual. And I'll leave it at that.
Barbara?
Okay, we met on the 27th and the discussion of the new fire engine, it should be ready by the end of May. And so far, the federal grant of 900,000 is still in place. And the terms of this is that the village will pay 300 and the town will pay 600. And then the grant will then reimburse those funds. And so far, they said it's just on as it is right now. So they don't know what's going on with that.
Green tier?
Green tier, okay, green tier, when we met on the 17th of February, we discussed Earth Day and a tree giveaway, which I don't know what's going on with that yet. Because we're supposed to meet tomorrow and there isn't a quorum, so we won't be, but they're working on designing and ordering reusable bags for sale and giveaway. And then tomorrow's meeting is canceled as stands.
I have a question on
Yes.
page 7. Line 11. Heidi stated that in the limited time they have to create a report by the March 31st deadline, that she will focus on those 3 areas: challenges, successes, and future goals, to report on the DNR website and see what transpires from there. Is that all work that you have to do, Heidi?
Yes, because I have the authorization log into the DNR's website. You have to have a security code.
And we did go over those during that meeting as well and shared them.
Okay, so Pico gave you the information.
Yes,
that you
they
have to
told
put
me
in.
what they wanted and I have to just
Mhm.
put it
Yeah,
on there.
so we set some goals. Agreed on should be discussed and.
Well, I read all that, but I just wasn't 100%
There's a lot of
sure
information.
the
yeah.
way that it was written. I didn't know if Heidi had to create something all herself.
Historical Society?
The minutes are in your packets. Mostly we just talked about the most part, we talked about the movie filming at the Historical Society and the schedule, how that was gonna go, and it's very exciting. Everything else is in there, all the future events and stuff signed up for the summer, and
I heard they were there today. Is that
Yeah.
going to be? Then we were recreating a little bit of Chris Krindelmark.
yesterday too, yeah,
And Thursday,
all week they're here.
I'm gonna be an extra on Thursday.
So it's going to be it might be a Hallmark movie or it is a Hallmark movie.
So what it is that, they make movies and then they sell them to, like Hallmark or another movie channel.
So they,
Hallmark buys the movie from them. They're a movie making company that do these special Christmas.
but they don't
movies.
know yet.
They don't know if Hallmark's buying it,
Uh-huh,
but they're
buying it.
hoping they will. They did last year.
It'll be better than feed the fish. Feed my fish.
Absolutely.
Okay, housing committee.
Housing committee, we did not meet.
Library commission.
We did not meet.
Marina committee. And you did not meet.
Met last week. I just sent. If there's minutes
Not in the packet, no.
by Sam, that's all.
The minutes in the packet are from February.
Oh, from February. Okay, so instead of doing something.
A strange question on the Marina minutes, about the boardwalk. And Dave talked about, that eliminate static electricity buildup. Can somebody explain that to me?
I actually had a conversation with Dave, not explicitly about that, but talking about possible materials that were used on that, and he said that they couldn't do plastic decking because you build up static. You build up static and it would discharge and cause fuel explosions.
I think it was because we had to look at, like truck stacking or something
Right.
like that.
Mhm.
And that composite can cause a charge or the static.
So the Somerset, the company that's been doing the work with Marina, they apparently have to go to the private docks that are like that and treat them for static 2 or 3 times a season.
Oh, and that's what they were talking about with chemical applications. Got it, thank you.
But it changes the price because now we're stuck with.
Right.
Water.
But then he also had an issue with permitting, I guess, because dredging is crazy right now, so then they may not get that permit, but
Well, and I
I'm not
think,
even on Marina, I just happen to have a conversation with Dave.
yeah, and I think under dredging, on line 36, the cost is, there's a comma, maybe when there should be a period on 4807 per cubic yard of material.
Minutes from the meeting last week are in there if anybody has any questions.
Personnel,
Same thing, minutes are in there. Anybody has questions?
we should have a handbook update, I think,
Next
next
week.
month, or next, yeah, we got a
Next
meeting
week,
next
this one,
week.
it's done. Yeah, we finished it.
Planning commission,
Any questions? Minutes are in there.
SBA,
SBAA, I see nothing too relevant that I recall, we approved the, shuttle route for this upcoming season. I think tomorrow there's going to be an update, but it looks like Ellie and Aaron found an app that you can track the shuttle and see where it is, like live, which is really cool.
That's great.
So people can just download
And
that
multiple
app.
users at one time.
Yes, I actually tried that app out. I was recently in Chicago and a lot of the hotels surrounding the airport area use that same app.
Yeah.
App, it's called Track My Shuttle. And like if you're in a hotel lobby, there's a screen on there, but you can also, the hotel will share a link with you. And you can track it live and it moves, kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've used Uber before, how it shows the cars.
Well, we had one like that 3 years ago.
Yeah, so this one, I guess, is
The
more
kind of
efficient,
overlaps, drop.
cost, I guess, cost wise, it's a lot more. it's a lot cheaper than what other apps.
Oh, yeah,
looked
because
at.
everything we researched
Yeah,
after we lost.
so I saw in the agenda an update about that, for this. Thursday. Ellie, did you want to add to that?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, this company too is willing to kind of do like a monthly fee, which is great for us since we don't operate, half the year. So yeah, cost wise, they were fabulous. And then the features that they actually are that are going to be associated with as well. If somebody doesn't want to download an app, you can actually just go to the trackmyshuttle.com webpage. And we were able to kind of really customize our page. So if somebody just goes to trackmyshuttle.com, they can search SB shuttle. So like for Sister Bay shuttle, and it will take it right to our route. And then I'm still in the process of building this, but I've gotten the route laid out in the site, so you can see that, and I can even put in details for like if you get off at a specific stop, I can write in like what other businesses or what features or kind of what is there at that stop for them to get off at, and then there's a text number that they can even text to get ETAs of the shuttle. And it all looks really slick. Now, fingers crossed that once we actually get in there to use it, it's going to be great. But from what I've seen so far, their customer service has been great to get it all set up. So I'm really, really excited for this to get launched.
Otherwise, just updates on festivals and events, Cherry Draft Film Festival. Currently there's the Ice Out contest, and then coming up is Easter. Is that it?
Nate, it took me too long to scroll, and can I go back to personnel?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I had some questions about the employee contracts from some of the people that I have talked to about them, said that they're usually kind of only good for the employer, not the employee. But it's said in the minutes that the committee recommended a general discussion with the village board on this subject at its meeting in March.
So what happened is at the previous meeting, there was some discussion with some staff. I don't want to put any staff member on the spot on here. I would say that there was really what this is about is giving the employees some certainty. This is what we're suggesting is going to cede power from the village to the employee. It is going to be better for the employee. It's going to give the village a little bit of certainty on there, but we don't have a format. I was really trying to get a contract to bring to the board as an example to say, this is what we want to do. I was not able to.
So it's not fully developed yet.
It's not fully developed,
Okay.
but I guess I would say broad brushstrokes. It is, we all hear what's going on in Washington, DC. And I understand that local government is different than federal government, but at the same point, putting myself in some of the employees' shoes, I think we should offer them some sort of certainty, and I think that the board generally feels that way. But until I had something more concrete,
Okay.
I didn't want to bring it back. But I would say that this actually started out of a conversation with a particular employee.
Okay.
It's back on our personnel agenda for.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at it.
I am really, for the employee's sake, I know that there's a desire, at least by one employee, to have this happen, and I would like to make sure, but generally, because until you have the specific terms, it's all, you don't know for sure if you want to agree to it.
Okay.
Okay. We're on tourism zone.
There was an exact meeting last week. There really wasn't a lot out of it. Most of it was closed.
Okay.
They'll have a full meeting in another 2 or 3 weeks.
Utilities?
We have a meeting coming up next week. I'm still scrolling through all the minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Did we have minutes in there?
Meeting March.
No. Okay, never mind. That's why I hadn't gotten down to the U yet.
Village Hall Planning Task Force.
We did not meet.
Then we have the ZBA results as well at the end.
And Door County Coastal Byways.
Oh, yes, also Door County Coastal Byways.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay, motion by Berto. Second by Orozco. All those in favor?
Aye.
The report is accepted. If we want to put something on 9 after executive session, is that, do I want to reorder it or do we just?
You mean add something to the agenda?
There's some matters to be placed on a future agenda or referred to committee.
Oh, we would just talk about that right now.
Okay, is there anything that anybody wants to refer? Okay. On to executive session then. Consider a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19851G to confer with legal counsel who either orally or in writing will advise the village board on strategy to be adopted with respect to current or likely litigation. Pending litigation to be filed by the village administrator.
Okay, so then we would just do that as your action.
Motions?
So moved.
Motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Risco, roll call.
Berto,
Yes.
Shampoo,
Yes.
Hart,
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Yes.
Say yes.
do you want
Kurt, you have to say yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Housen? Here, Orozco,
Yes.
and Bell.
Yes.
I'm glad.
Have a good evening, everyone.
I'll make a motion to go back into open session.
Second.
Roll call. Berto,
Yes.
Hart,
Here.
Housen,
Yes.
Orozco,
Here.
Shampoo,
Yes.
Yes.
and Bell.
Yes.
We are not taking any action, so I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:19.
By Berto, second by Hassan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.